Okay, okay, guys. I want to thank each and every one of you that's kept up with like this series and this what if. And if you would like to see more of it, and I know a lot of you would, just like say so in the comics and comments and leave about. We're gonna go for like 50 to 100 likes, and if we get that, I'll continue like the what if. And now without further ado, move on to like the story as is. So we finished off first like with them having finished like the little mock battles, and then the three of them deciding that they're each too strong to go after the tiger all at once now. So one so all each of them is gonna break away and just go after their own animals. And for which animals those are, I wanna leave that to like be a surprise later on. But for Luffy does decide to stick with the tiger because he has like a vendetta against him. If you watch the show, you see that the tiger actually, ate. Like he stole his food that one time, and then he also kind of threatened to eat Luffy that one time as well. So Luffy has like a grudge against him. He's saying like, then he just goes off immediately after him, like after he makes the announcement, and Ace and Sabo are like, eh. And so I was like, that's Luffy for you. Running off without a thought in his head other than Ace. And then Ace is just like shaking his head and like saying, yeah, whatever, as long as he doesn't die. So he just leaves. Yeah, whatever. I'm going after my target. And Zabo just says, yep, see you guys. He's later. Then those two just leave to go do their own stuff as well. And once these two leave, Logri just like sits there waiting for them to bring like the prizes. So Luffy's looking for the tiger in like a grassy plain, and then he's like saying, okay, tiger, I'm back for your skin and your meat, just like you took for me. Yeah, and then he looks and sees that he has gotten the tiger's attention, that he was actually like a few meters away from him. Luffy then stretches his fist back and it's a gum pistol to the tiger's head, and causing it to twist and knocking out a tooth. The young tiger then slashes at Luffy, but it just hit air as Luffy legitimately just used Zoro to move out of the way, and then do the gum so then he performed just a gum Zoro who stomped his to the back of the tiger's head and nearly shadowing his skull. Who's gonna? Oh. And then Luffy's like bragging, saying like, yeah, that. And then he was cut off before he could finish, as a surprise sweep from the tiger's tail hit him, and Luffy was knocked to the ground, and the tiger was ready to stomp on him from above. And so Luffy instinctively raises his arms and the tiger's foot. And the original took Ace and Sabo to do this together, but now it just takes Luffy to do it. That's to give you a notice how strong he is just with this training alone. And then he pushes up against the tiger's foot, and the tiger's actually like, in his mind, the tiger is like, what in the hell? What is this, kid? And then the tiger's actually getting forced back up by this small creature that is Luffy. And Luffy pushes up to the point where his legs start to actually pump down, and then he feels his blood rush all throughout his body, and it's like, okay, let's do this. And then he just pulls his fist back and does like a gum pistol. So, and then the pistol just then this pistol doesn't just kill the tiger, it completely punches a hole through him, and kills him instantly. Luffy just looks at his hands and is like, and he starts laughing like, he's like, this is gonna be so, I can't wait to show Ace and Sabo this. And then he just figures out how to explore his new ability. So yes, Luffy does get Gear Second early on in this timeline. But remember, But remember in the original, he only got it because he needed it to copy Suru, because like his regular physical body wasn't enough to handle it. But in this timeline, his regular body can handle Suru, and now he has Gear Second on top of that. So remember when I said they're going to be vastly stronger than they were in like the original? This kind of proves that as well. But now we move on to like Sabo. Sabo is swimming through like Sabo is literally swimming throughout the deep into like the coves around the island where they just meet the ocean. And he's looking for like a sea king to kill, because he knows that sometimes they do come around to like rest in those coves, and he's hoping at least he heard a rumor in the tavern when at one time, but he really hopes that he doesn't have to just go into like the ocean, because if he does, he'll probably have to use Skywalk just to have even a decent fight, to even be able to kill it. And while he has become very adept at it, he doesn't really want to expend that much energy to do something that shouldn't really be that hard to do. Not that he's hard to do. He'd rather just kill it and eat it, because he is starving at the moment. All of them went without eating just to make the hunt more interesting. But he didn't realize. Now he realizes, and then in his mind he's like, huh. So this is like to be Luffy, so hungry you can't think straight. Okay. And then he sees like a Sea King. He sees like a type. He's not sure what type of Sea King it is. He sees like a crab Sea King, I'm gonna say, since like it would make sense for like the thing. So he looked at the Sea King. He's like, "Ha! Found you, dumb crab!" And he prepared to duel the Sea King. He's totally fun. The Sea King looks at Sabo and he prepares to like smash into him. Only for the air to just be popped as Sabo. Bojin jumps into the sky and just floats in front of him. Okay, air versus water. Then Sabo taunted before using Geppos. Go to literally just float all around the Crab King. The Crab King snaps at Sabo all up in the air, but he can't catch him at all. Sabo straight up just used his finger pistol to stab one of its eyes out while I wasn't looking. The Sea King roared and raged, and then began to just use a claw and throw another claw strike at him. Sabo leaps over this one and then just does this kick and cuts his hand off. The Sea King again is worn, raged, and in pain, actually trying now to get away from Sabo. Until it actually looks up and the Sabo chases him down. Until the Sea King looks around and turns around and stares at him as it's too scalding hot water from his breath. Sabo is rushing towards it. The Sabo just manages to pull out his staff and disperse the water, which does burn his hands a little bit, but it's better than, getting a scar along his. It's better than getting scars all over the rest of his body. And then after he's done with that, he flips over the Sea King. Then after he does that, he uses Geppo, does a few flips in the air, and brings his staff down hard on the crab's head, splitting it open and killing it instantly. Sabo then lands on the corpse of the dead Crab King. Yeah, see ya, he's haunted. While using temper. And then he now has to face another issue, and that's getting the thing to shore. And then Sabo's like, now, how do I get this thing to shore? And he's like, And now we get to Ace. Now, Ace, of course, will want to go after an animal that would be interesting for him. So he chooses, then he thinks of Nagui, and he's like, and then he thinks of that bear, and he's like, I'm gonna go after that bear and kill him. kill him. Also, I've been in a mood for some bear meat recently. But he's really just wants to go after the bear to like see like, hey Nagui, whatever you can do, I can do too. So he's gonna go after and try to kill the bear. Yeah, so Sabo, what Ace does is basically, what Ace basically does is he kind of just goes out. So what Ace basically does is that he goes out and he kind of does, and strangely enough, he copies Sabo here, like something Sabo would have mostly done, and just places fists near the caves, near a series of caves and waiting on top of caves and waits out in the open for the bear to come because he wants to get this over with as quick as possible and lure him out so he can finally eat something. He's like, wait, come on, hurry up, you shitty bear, I'm hungry. Wait, then when the bear just comes up, it looks at Sabo, seeing that he pretty much has taken all the fish that was outside the cave and has dropped it behind him. The bear, taking the message quite easily, rushes at Sabo with the intent to cleave him in half, cleave him into cubes. I mean, Ace rushes at Ace with the intent to cleave him into cubes. Ace is not even close to being afraid, and just looks at the tiger like, and he just looks crap. I cannot talk today. Okay, that's what we saw. Okay, and Ace just is not even amused and looks at the bear and is like, well, this is gonna be over in an instant. And he didn't just puts up his hand as the bear is about to punch him, about to cleave at him, and turns it as hard as iron. The bear strikes it and actually wheels back as it hurt its paw, and it's like looking at Ace to see what he did, and all Ace did was just put his hand out. The bear begins to just continue to swipe at Ace, who just stands still using Iron Body, and none of the hits are affecting him at all. Ace then begins to just get bored of this, and then he decided to use a new technique he made, one of the new techniques. He begins to get into a stance, and then he throws his fist forward while yelling, "Iron Fist!" Yelling something along the lines of, "Iron Fist!" And then he slams his fist straight into the bear's chest, completely stopping the heart from beating as the shockwaves reverberate throughout its body. And the bear just collapses soon after that. Combining his movements perfectly with the steel body for one of the first times, he then looks at his fist and looks at the bear and he's like, not a bad hunt. And of course, all three of them come with the winnings, and coincidentally, they all arrive at around the same time. Albeit Sabo was almost late since he had to get a giant sea crab out of the ocean essentially. But he managed. And of course, it ended with a tie since all three of them got what they were sent to do. And Nagui is just like, okay, you two, you got all the progress well, Nursey. Well, afraid I can't teach you all, no, none of you three anything else. The rest shall come with experience, Nursey. And then Nagui just sets sail, puts up his flag, waves goodbye to his students, and begins to sail off. All three of them see him off, and they just like, And Luffy's like, hey, you guys think we'll meet him out there when we become pirates too? Ace and Sabo are like, and Ace and Sabo are just like, They just swug, and Luffy's like, I hope so. so Naguri's left now, but the three of them still have so many new powers to play around with, and each of them pretty much know at least 2 or 3 of the five. Like Luffy still knows Zoro, and that like Luffy knows Zoro, and he knows that paper technique where like you turn into like you're like paper, and you just flow with the wind. Ace knows the Tenkai technique, and he also knows that arm blade technique as well. He knows it's he and then Sabo knows that Tempest kick, the Geppo, and the finger pistol. So they know enough to get by now, and they can just improve on what they know already. So the three of them are gonna miss Nagui, but he left them with some great, and I mean very great teachings. A few days later, the three are in like Gray Terminal looking for parts to fix up like the fort, and Sabo stumbles upon telescope. Scope like in the original, he's like, "Oh, Luffy's gonna love this." He said he's been this because like Luffy said he wanted a telescope, and Sabo was like, Luffy's gonna love this, like in the original. But also like in the original, we all know that this is of course when Lockhorn, wait, like when Sabo's douchebag noble dad tries to come and take him back for some reason. I'm not even sure why they wanted him back, honestly, because they treated him terribly, especially his mom. God damn, Sabo has every right to hate nobles with how they treat people. But we're like on to like, but less ranting about Sabo's terrible family and more about like him about to beat the living hell out of these mercenaries and his dad. And just like in the original, the ASL trio are stopped cold by Lockhorn and some town guards that he brought them, with them. And they're like, okay, Sabo, you're gonna come with us now, or we're going to kill these two. And then all three of them just look at Lockhorn as he talks, and they look at Lockhorn or whatever his dad's name is. I honestly couldn't care enough to look up his name. He's that irrelevant to me. So they look at Sabo's dad and they're like, and then Ace, Sabo, and Luffy both all three of them just smile, and then Luffy just straight up disappears. Disappears from from the eyes except for Sabo, Ace's, and he just flat out kicks 2 of the guards out, knocks 2 of the guards out cold. And then one of the guards turns to shoot at Luffy, and Ace just straight up stands in front of the bullet, and the bullet bounces off of his skin, and the guard is like, huh? And then Ace just knocks him out with an arm blade, cutting his gun in half, and then Sabo straight up just goes after the last remaining guards using Geppo and his finger pistol to knock them all out. And then on the last one, he catches like the gun before it falls to the ground. He goes up and straight up kicks his dad in the stomach, and his dad and Lockhorn falls to like his knees and stuff. Oh, also Ace sees a pirate crew that's also Ace sees that Zabo did intentionally miss some of them for him. So Ace just kind of whams into them using his iron body. They're using a new move called Iron Wham. Yeah, I know, I'm really good with these names. And knocks them all out. And then while Sabo's dad is like coughing on the ground trying to get and then he's like, how and then before he can finish, Sabo just grabs him by his shirt and then just puts the gun up in front to his face, and Lockhorn really believes he's gonna die. He almost wets his pants because he thinks he's about to die. Until Sabo just turns the gun away, takes it by the barrel and crushes it in his grip, and he's like, You you didn't see anything, old man. Okay? And then Lockhorn just like nods heavily as Sabo straight up just kicks him straight back over the walls into like the town that he came from from like, you know, that noble village on Fusa Island. And he's like, and then the three of them are like, they're like giving each other high fives or like patting each other on the back. Sabo even gives Luffy like the telescope, and Luffy's like, yes, 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 yes. And he's like looking through it and everything. And it's actually a pretty good telescope for something that was found in a dump. So Luffy's gonna be enjoying that. And then Ace is like, he wants to say, he wants to say something, but he just smiles because like, okay, he can let Sabo do this one thing for Luffy. It's okay to spoil him when he does something that's not brain dead, stupid, bid, bid. And then Sabo is just like letting Luffy thank him and everything. Then the three of them walk off. But unbeknownst to them, after he kicked their dad in there was someone else in Goa City that was watching them. He had actually come by to see what the gnomes were up to because he actually heard tale of like a no. He wanted to like visit like the island for a bit, but he also heard rumors of a noble coming by, like a celestial dragon. And then this dude like with a dragon tattoo along his face sees them and it's actually watched them fight, and he was like, "Is that really credible?" And then after the battle, all three of them just went back to the tree fort. And it's all good, laughing and everything until they realize that, until like Sabo realizes that they've been followed. Until Sabo, Luffy, and Ace realize that all three of them have been followed, and then they turn around ready to just fight again, and with Ace saying, "Who's there? Show yourself." And out of the floors came a man with a dragon tattoo and a cloak, looking directly at all three of them. He was looking at Luffy in particular. Of course, this is Dragon, aka Luffy's dad, but Luffy doesn't know that, and Dragon doesn't want him to know that because that would put him in danger. But he is the leader of the Revolutionary Army. He does look at all three of them and he says, "I'm Dragon. Hello, you three. I saw your fight today on the walls of Goa." And Sabo can instantly recognize that this dude isn't a noble by the fact that he's out here all on his own, and looks for three kids he doesn't know anything about. So he starts to relax a bit. Ace, however, Luffy just doesn't sense any evil intent from the man and relaxes as well. Ace just doesn't trust him yet, and just it stays in his stance as well, and just stays in his stance. And then they're like, "I'm Dragon," and then Dragon's like, he doesn't beat around the bush. He's like, "Hello, you three. I'm Dragon, and I've come to recruit you to the Revolutionary Army." And I'm sure army. And they're like, "The Revolutionary Army? What?" And Sabo, neither of them really know what the Revolutionary Army is. Sabo has a vague idea because he heard like his parents complaining about it a bit when he used to live with them, like saying that they lost some profits, they lost some ships and some valuable cargo, which he no doubt thought was slaves to the Revolutionary Army. And he's like, he's actually interested to hear more. And then Sabo just looks at him and says, "Okay, well, go on." And Luffy at this point is just like, Revolutionary Army, because Ace and Luffy don't know anything about it at all. And Ace is just like, And Dragon just simplifies it, saying, "You all know how heartless and deceitful those nobles are. Those nobles in the Navy are, right? Making backroom deals, slavery. really extortion, and even destroying entire countries when it deems it necessary. Well, my faction seeks to stop them from doing that, and to bring real freedom to the people. At this point, Ace knows this dude is literally hates the Navy with a burning passion and the nobility. And Ace hates the nobility in the Navy with a passion. So at this point, Ryan's gotten all three of them to trust him. And he just goes on about like what the Revolutionary Army is, who he is, except for being Luffy's dad. That he's actually the leader of the Revolutionary Army, and if they go with him, he can train them to better use the powers they have, and even possibly teach them some more if they want. But to do this, they would have to join the Revolutionary Army and serve under him. Now, and Sabo especially. So it was now. Of course, when he's told this he said now. Of course, he says, "I'll." Now he says, "I'll wait for your answer for a day. We'll meet at the cove." He's talking about the cove, and then he says, "We'll meet at the shore on the other side of the island, like at the cove." And just as he's finished, a gust of wind appears, and he was simply gone. Un, un, and then Sabo just says under his breath, like, "Damn those nobles and those celestial dragons! How could they treat people like that?" Now, even though the three of them do know that this dude can be trusted, Luffy's not gonna want to go. Like, he wants to be the Pirate King. That's kind of like his whole thing, to like just become the Pirate King. That's like his driving goal, what he promised Shanks. So he's not gonna do that. At all. Well, he likes the guy. The guy's cool, but he's just not gonna do it. Even if it is to learn new abilities, he can just master the ones he has already. And he technically already has a new ability that he hasn't yet shown Ace or Sabo. And of course, we're talking about he learns Gear Second way earlier in this timeline. So there's really nothing for him to do with this guy. Ace, of course, just doesn't want to go on principle. He wants to get great enough to set himself apart from Roger. And being somebody's second in command or number two just doesn't sit right with him at all. Especially since he does hate the nobility in the Navy with a burning passion. And especially after hearing what Dragon had to say about the more seedier operations, he doesn't really want to dedicate his entire life to fighting them. If he has to, he will, but he doesn't want to do that on the daily. That would be like too much. Sabo, on the other hand, this just strikes a chord with him. Ever since he found out that they were gonna, ever since he found out what was happening, like in the, because even without knowing that they're gonna burn down the Gray Terminal, he still knows that he still knows that the nobility is very corrupt. He was in the nobility. He knows how awful they are, and now hearing that they're doing this stuff and getting away with it, and that the Navy just turning a blind eye, he just can't turn a blind eye to that. It's wrong. And as a noble himself, or at least as an ex-noble, he feels sort of responsible for bringing a change to that. He feels like he needs to do something, anything, to stop this from happening. To stop anyone else from getting hurt by these monsters in human clothing. And so, that night, when the two of them were going to sleep, all of them thought hard about it, and then Ace eventually notices like his mood shifting, and then he asks like, "Okay, what's wrong?" "Okay, Sabo." And then he just looks at Sabo and he's like, "So you decided you want to go with them, didn't you?" And Luffy's like, "What? Oh, really, Sabo?" And Sabo's like, "Yes, I'm going to join." And Luffy's just like really like Luffy's not and like Luffy's still sad. Like, of course he's sad. Like, one of his brothers is about to leave for who knows how long, and he's like, hey, what about being a pirate, Sabo? And then he just croaks and starts to cry a little bit, and then Sabo's because like one of his nicest brothers is leaving him. Well, not leaving him. He's leaving to fight for a great cause, but like Luffy's still like 7, guys. I mean, come on. He's tough and everything, but he's still like a kid. And then Sabo just like goes up to Luffy and comforts him. And he's like, I know about our dreams, Luffy, but I can't just sit by and let some people die at the hands of those these fucking nobles. Especially not since I used to be one of them. And Ace just interjects saying, but you're not like them, Sabo. Oh, you're not like them at all. No, at all. And Sabo says, yes, Ace, I know I'm not. And that's the point. That's why I need to do this. That's why I need to go and right the wrongs that these other members of my class have been doing, of my old class have been doing. I need to fix this. I need to help fix this and make it right. Right, and something tells me that when I go, things will start to change more than ever before. And at this point, Ace and Luffy know there's just no talking Sabo out of this. He's gonna leave to join the Revolutionary Army, and that's just a fact. And Luffy is like, and then Sabo looks at Luffy in his arms, and Luffy actually fell asleep while crying. And he just sets Luffy down, and he begins to go to sleep. And like but then Ace just looks at him and says, "Sabo, we have to talk first." And Sabo knows that this isn't optional, so the two of them sit and talk for like a few minutes. And then the next day after that, to that dragon, they all go to like the cove, and Dragon's like, so have all you decisions been made? He asked all 3 of them, because all 3 of them were there, of course. And then Sabo would just walk up and say, yeah, I desire to join you, Dragon, Sama. Sabo, he probably declares if he gets into like a ready, like, you know, he gets like at a ready arms position without the whole hand thing. And Dragon just looks at Sabo, and he can see that just from the way Sabo holds himself and from the way he acts, that this kid must have had some nobility. He can just kind of tell. And the fact that he's willing to fight against this nobility for the greater good, he can't help but just smile a bit at that. And then he's like, very well, we must leave immediately so the Navy doesn't catch us. And then Dragon, very well, we must leave immediately so the Navy doesn't catch us. So he then leads Sabo to his boat, and then Sabo looks back at him as Sabo looks out at Ace and Luffy as they both wave goodbye, just waving at him, just like cry. And of course, even Ace starts to shed a tear, but Luffy's too focused on Sabo, and Sabo doesn't point out that Ace is crying even while they're far away. And then all Ace and Sabo then remember the promise that he made. But Luffy, Makino, and of course, I also forgot, like, Makino's there too. I mean, let's just face it, the minute he's gonna hear that Sabo's gonna be leaving, as he just so happened to come that day, Luffy was holding Makino's hand while Sabo faded into the distance, sobbing loudly, while Ace just, like, punched him over the head and said, like, Luffy, don't make this harder for him. Luffy healed it, then forcing back tears of his own, but like he failed and like a few came running down. And then Ace is like, Luffy's like, but I'll miss him, Ace. And Ace surprisingly just puts an arm around Luffy, much to Makino's surprise, and he just smiles. And then Ace is like, he remembers how the promise that he made to Ace, and Ace said like basically you need to get stronger. You need to get stronger than me and Luffy if you're gonna survive out there. And just like come back, alright? It was basically just a very basic talk and just like don't abandon your dream. Get strong enough to live through it and just like do all that and then come back to us, alright? Right, when like it's all said and done, or like come back to visit and shit like that. And then Zabo was less like, what's the matter, Ace? I didn't know you'd miss me that much. And then Ace almost like starts a fight with him until Luffy just snores loudly, and Zabo just laughs, and Ace is just like blushing a bit, and just like, get some damn sleep, you top hat. And just like that. Everything pretty much just goes smoothly for the next 5 years. Yes, 5 years. So now Luffy is 12, Ace is 15, and Sabo is 15 as well. Wait, 5 years? Huh. Should it be 6? Well, so this is like 2 years before Ace leaves out to sea. And like him and Luffy are just like chilling on like the island. And, well, no, not chilling. Okay, and by this point, Luffy has shown Ace that he knows Gear Second, and here's how like the fight goes. And they're both are just having like their daily sparring sessions since now. And then Luffy's like, Gear Second, come, bazooka! And he yells, he tries to hit Ace at high speeds, but Ace casually activated his steel body to absorb the blow quite to absorb the blow. It still impacts him and he feels it, but it's not too discomforting. Then Luffy didn't disappear from sight, only to reappear when Ace caught him with a an iron backhand, and then judo flip Luffy onto the ground. Luffy stares up at Ace as Ace begins to like stomp down on him, only for Luffy to like disappear, like bend out of the way every time Ace tries to stomp in a place where his head used to be. And then he just wraps his feet around. Ace just wraps his upper legs around his arms, attempting to do a move, and Ace like does like his blade arm ability, where he just like lets his winds out in Luffy's grasp, cutting Luffy's legs a bit, and causing Luffy to like yell out in pain somewhat. And then Luffy lets go, but before he does, he just solo to get out of there once again. He then activates Gear Second once more as he's dashing towards Ace, and Ace begins to use his improved Iron Fist ability that lets out like this gust of wind, the concussive force that he's intended to slam into Luffy. But before he can, Luffy pulls back his own fist and does Jet Bullet and just impacts Ace right below, hitting him square in the stomach. And since Ace realizing that Ace couldn't keep the iron body on while he was moving, he had to turn it off somewhere when he was moving to make the technique more effective. He still has it on somewhat, but not as hard to like impact his mobility. This actually causes Ace to double over, only for Luffy to just straight up toss him up. Only for Luffy to just straight up wrap him up, and then put his hand around his neck as if it would break it. And then it's like, I win. And as he smirks at Ace, and Ace is like, well, I'll be damned. And Ace is like, well, I'll be damned. Luffy over the last 5 years has been winning over Ace more and more, He's still not as strong as Ace because let's just face it, Ace does have the more offensive Tenkai abilities, and he's also older, more experienced, and he's just stronger than Luffy overall, especially thanks to this training. But like if I could say like the new score now, since they had to fix it because Sabo left, the score now would be Ace is now at around 36 wins, and Luffy is at, wait no, not 36, because they would do be fine 100 times. Ace is around 73 wins, wait no, 69 wins, and Luffy is around 31. That might not seem like much at the time, but considering like what happened at the last one, there's actually a really good improvement. Because Luffy's now beating Ace almost 1/3 at a time now. So Luffy is much stronger in his timeline. But that also means Ace and Sabo are much stronger. Yeah, and then Gulp is like watching him from a distance as he sees the two spar. He of course is confused how they managed to learn the 6 powers at all. Well, and he was just at all. He was hidden in a tree, and then he saw the two go hunting for dinner, taking dinner. He did come by to train them, but he saw that they were already pretty much good on their own. But that wasn't to say he wasn't gonna come back like probably a month later and train them again. He just surprised them later, so he just made his way off and to leave and probably just do something else. And it's kind of lucky that he did leave the island at that time, because while looking for something tasty to do, Ace and Luffy, we saw something in the distance. It was like a small boat with a white flag, and the two of them aren't that smart, but they do know that white flags usually mean help. So Luffy's like, "Oi, Ace, I think they look like they need help." And then Luffy is like signaling for them to land by them. And for some reason the boat just hurriedly turns over to them, and when it lands, a white-haired girl, when it lands, like a light orange-haired girl steps out in like a pink dress, this little pink thing, and then a fist man comes out dressed in like a karate gi, and the light orange brown haired girl has a goggle hat with goggles on it. Is followed by a boy in a dress in a casual blue vest with a black jacket and a top hat, and uses it as a weapon. And then Ace is like, wait, that last guy. And then Sabo steps out the boat and is like, we had kind of a minor accident, he began to say, but it stopped when he saw like Ace and Luffy staring right back at him. And then faster than the eye could even begin to track, Luffy tackles Sabo in a hug and just nuzzles into him as he's like, Sabo. And then Ace just like comes over and he's like, and then he just can't help it and hugs Sabo too, and it's like, and Sabo just hugs both three of them back, and all this time, Hack and Cola are just like they're saying like, Sabo, you know these two? Cola replied. And then like Sabo's like, oh yeah, Ace, Luffy, meet my teammates, Hack, Cola, and Hack. Sabo introduces them all wincing a bit like holding like his chest and his side somewhat, showing that he'd been injured like in the fight. Right, and then he's like, see, we had a little problem the last mission. We did take a big toll on it. We're injured, tired, and you name it, and I thought we crash here. He smiled. dude. And then Ace is like, "Are you kidding? Of course you can. We're brothers. Let's go to town." Ace just like puts his arm around Sabo, and then him and Luffy just like escort like him, Cola, and Hack to town, and then the two of them, and then like the two, and then they get to town. Sabo sees that Ace and Luffy are getting like a type of celebrity treatment for some reason. Like everyone's like genuinely happy to like see them, and they're looking at them with admiration, and they're like, and so I was like, "What did you two do while I was gone? Stop a pirate invasion or something?" And he just joked, and Luffy's like, "Yeah, we actually saved Fusa Village." And it's like it's a most casual thing. Like if someone asks you what's your favorite color, what you say, "Oh yeah, it's red." Red. And then just as they're like about to enter like the bar to possibly get some first aid, Makino looks at a top hat that he hadn't seen in 5 years and sees a face he hadn't seen in 5 years. Sabo grunted as the bartender / surrogate mother just straight up hugs him and just is like fussing over every little scar he has and almost fainting when she sees that he literally has a big wound on his body. And pulls him towards the door where she keeps like the medical supplies, of course, for the other D brothers, because let's just be honest, these two are gonna be hurt and injured on the daily with the type of training that they do. And then Sabo's like, "Okay, I can afford. Okay, look." And Sabo at this point is only like third in command of like the he's like the third in the Revolutionary Army at the moment. He still is an important role, but it's only be like another year or two before he gets promoted to second in command. It's gonna happen, but it hasn't happened yet. So he can't afford to like leave for a short. So he can't afford to leave for like a short period of time. And of course he's gonna need to heal from his injuries, so about 2 to 3 months. He looks at them and is like, in less than an hour, Sabo and his friends were all patched up. And then Sabo's like, "Thanks, Makino, this is good. And then he says thankfully, and Makino says, "Think nothing of it. Now let me fix that." Boy, Ace and Luffy got Makino left to go prepare dinner. The brothers and Sabo's friends all left alone. "So when did you meet Sabo?" Luffy asked Cola. Cheerfully, go to get an answer. Of course, this is Luffy as always. When Cola smiled at the overzealous Luffy. Just something about him made her like. Something about it just made her calm. You know, Luffy has that effect on people. He can make friends instantly. And since Cola is really friendly overall from what we've seen of her in the anime, I mean, her and Luffy become really fast friends really quickly. I mean, also, Luffy's just adorable. Boy, and if you disagree, you can fight me. So after that, yep. And so it's like he's like an innocent kid that the world hasn't really touched with its worst horrors yet. And Cola is like wants to like you look at that and you said, "I want to protect that" and stuff like that. And then Cola just like, "Well, we joined the Revolutionary Army around the same time. Hack was already there as a fistman quad instructor." Does he just straight up explain as a matter of factly. And then Ace is like, "What's a fist?" And Ace like, "What's fistman karate?" Because like it sounds like a fighting art, and he'd be interested in that. And it said, and Hack is like, it's basically a water-based fighting art. He stated. And then Luffy's like, "Wow, so cool, can you show me? Let's spar." Luffy's just like, "Yo, wow, show me, like use it on me, or like try to hit me with it." Only gets smacked by Ace. And then Ace just of course quickly smacks him across the head, like, "Let them rest first, you idiot." Anyway, what happened to you guys? The son of Ace just like says, because he probably should have asked this sooner, but he's like, "Seriously, what happened to you guys? Like, you guys look like shit. Like, what happened?" And then Sabo was like, Sabo's like, well, stands up proudly. He's like, well, we were sent to take out the Sith Power government training facility that was turning out routine killers. It was funny twist. They were stronger than expected. We still destroyed the place far ahead of schedule. Cole boasted. He boasts happily, and then Cole just like gets up and she's like annoyed. He has a little, anger emoji on her forehead. He's like, he grabs him by the cheek and he's like, maybe it was far ahead of schedule because we went to plan a detailed attack, just rusting the place on sight. He films. He looks at her team leader, and then she says, and then Hack just like gets between the two of them as Sabo rubs his cheek, and he's like, long story short, we have at least 2 or 3 months to spare. Again from Sabo's recklessness. And what better place to spend it than with my brothers, Sabo grinned as he just held the D-Bros close. Food's ready, Makino bubbled, serving the dishes to everyone, as they all just ate fortunate of the day's events. So there's gonna be some very interesting changes in this timeline. I'm just going to explain them now, and you'll see what I mean. Okay, 2 weeks later, and here's what's happened. Roaring Water Fest! Cola yelled as he just socks Luffy in the stomach with a water-infused punch, wrenching him several feet back while negating his upper body. Wow, you're really strong, Luffy. Oh, and Luffy just doesn't care. He's like, wow, you're really strong. He just praised Cola, who blushes a little, slightly. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Lou. Show me. Yes, he just has a nickname for Luffy now, Lou. Literally after only 2 weeks, since he already has a nickname for him. Luffy Cone. So you could say Luffy Cone, but I don't want to sound too much of a weeb. So I'm just gonna say she has a nickname for him called Lou, and you gotta deal with it. And then she's like, thanks Lou, now show me those gum moves again. And she insists on help, and she's basically just insisting on helping him up. And then Luffy's like, okay, here comes Gum Rifle. For Luffy Ward, launching the attack at Cola, who barely dodges as the cliff they were sparring in front of was shattered. And Luffy's just looking at Cola oh my god, I'm so sorry. He just laughs and sorry, I tried to hold back that time. Luffy smiled. Cola was just dumbfounded that Luffy was this strong, holding back. These were just as strong as Sabo was not. But these were just as strong. These attacks that he was letting out were just as strong as Sabo when he was just playing around. When he was just holding back, and this is just Luffy playing around. So Sabo's still stronger than Luffy because you of course would know that. Everyone that knows the three of them would know that. Now the order goes like this now. It's Sabo, Ace, and Luffy. Yes, Sabo is stronger than Ace at the moment because Sabo has had trained with the Revolutionary Army on top of having training from Dragon himself and Kuma and Hack of all people. So yes, he is the strongest of the brothers at this point in time. That is going to change after 2 years, but for now, he is the strongest. Ace did kind of tell him to get stronger than him and Luffy to survive out there. And then after all of this is said and done, and then of course from this, Sabo just comes back saying, hey guys, we got an alligator. He shouts while Ace prepared the fire. Ace makes the fire.